Nah, because it would oh, hey, we're live. Sorry, that was a trap. Make you turn around in the middle of it. And we're here. Hey, everyone. Sorry it's so dark. Just realized there's a cat on the screen. Yeah. Sorry about missing last week's stream. We're still dealing with government and all kinds of crap, but we
Government what?
Progress forward. We make through it.
Is that what that chopper was for?
No, I mean, yes, the chopper was circling us, but I don't think it was for us. Speaking of choppers hunting people, hey, Skydog, I know you're here. Did you see the thing? The Unabomber was apparently killing off people on the Epstein list. At least one guy was tied to it so far. Funny stuff. Nah. I just ran it for the AI, and so far that's the only guy connected. Unless the AI really didn't want to talk about it, so maybe Claude's being a little sneaky. No,
he's just got PTSD.
Probably a guy who made Claude on the list, probably. But,
How would that be a class?
As I understand it, we only have, a third of the files, so hey, for all we know. Oh, it's nice to have everyone here. Not a crowd already. My goodness.
They missed you.
Everyone's following Skydog, it seems. How many FBI agents you got today? Calm down. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the sermon. Oh, they ran away. I called them out. Hope you guys enjoyed the last sermon. We'll be bringing up a little bit of it. But yeah, today I wanted to remind everybody, because I was in Ecclesiastes, and yes, it reminds me of this. I mean, these days, sometimes everything reminds me of revenge. I'm not going to lie. Could be my balding head. I have less between me and heaven. It's complicated. I don't know where I was going.
You have more.
No, you see, less hair means I have less mercy in my heart. Because I'm closer, I'm reflecting, and I'm really trying too hard on this one. I thought there'd be more of a joke. I don't know. You guys, you've done it before. You start talking.
Light off your head?
Yes.
I can't.
I mean, if you're bald enough, sure.
I want to put some olive oil on my head.
I mean, you're. I can attest that your butt's shiny enough. Hey, did you know that this is Sunday school? The moon. Maybe we should do a Sunday school just to screw with everyone on the Song of Solomon and have him talking about bouncing boots.
Aaron, shut your
It's
mouth.
in the Bible.
I know.
You want to wait for all those young teenage boys to find it on their own? I mean, I don't. Better they find it under supervision, don't you think? Wife's like, oh crap, I have 3 boys. Yes, and they're going to find it. And they're going to read the part where it's like, the breasts, the bounce like the dough. Mom, what's a dough? Oh, like deer? Oh. Well, at least it's positive. There's the other parts.
The positive would be pregnancy that follows afterwards.
Yeah, that's when married, hopefully. And which I am only condoning when married. Though shotgun weddings were a thing for a reason, baby. Lock those alphas down before they try to spread their wild oats. What's up? Oh, Rosie, do you want to say hi to everyone? He was singing to you earlier. Yeah, they're over there, dog.
Over.
Face the.
Over here, Rose.
She will follow the cat. Anyway, wife has been making various things and selling their feet pics of the animals.
Apparently, Amazon won't let you put
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's next to.
At least for us.
In the title or something. You can't have Happy Valentine's in the title of the object.
No, it's definitely for us. We're on some kind of list.
Sorry,
I mean,
Rose.
Shocking after what you just heard. Us on the list. At least it's not the Unabomber's list, if you know what I mean.
I know. Just a shopping list for you.
You did what I do. It's like I could scratch you. I could do it. So
I'll slap you.
I promise we'll get into this. You'll have to bear with me. I'm feeling particularly violent tonight, so I need to ease myself in and laugh a little bit.
4.5 hours on call. On hold.
That wasn't today. That was just pure exhaustion after those 4 hours were over. Yeah, I had an agency, the state agency, break federal law with me, and it's shocking how little of those people working those jobs know what the laws are that they're supposed to be enforcing and doing. I had to wait on hold for 4 hours before a manager came on, and I threatened them with a state hearing, and then suddenly everyone wanted to help me. Maybe I should have done that 4 hours before. I don't know. Golly, man. I didn't even want to deal with that. I just wanted the crap sorted out. Anyway, man. But that's not why I feel violent. It was actually kind of ruminating in my mind with last Sunday's sermon. You should probably check it out. And this cat clawing a chair. He's so violent right now. My gosh. We really need to get him a scratch post before he turns me into a scratch post. Ah, he's coming closer. Wait, whoa. Calm down. See, we want to make you guys feel like that you're in a Sunday school and in our house or something. You've been to those. And the cat's trying to jump on you, the dog's barking, the child's diaper exploded on your lap. I don't know. That could happen. By the time this probably gets going, they probably won't be in diapers anymore. Only 2 of them are in diapers at this point. Only 2. But I promise to save a grandkid's exploding diaper for Skydog. And his FBI agent. We'll throw it at him. When he's not looking. Isn't that what drones are for these days? To drop poopy diapers on FBI agents?
Especially
not that I would ever do that.
Yeah. Free fertilizer.
Anyway. Don't you want to make a law specifically saying not to drop poop on federal agents? I'm sure there's some kind of law to that effect. Really should get into the Sunday school lesson, but for some reason I'm on a roll.
Now you're on the poop list.
It's still better than the Epstein files. The poop list.
Down to shoot.
Islam's on the poop list since they really like rubbing poop and feces on crosses, by the way. It's their thing. They feel really special about it. Well, some of them are Muslim, technically. That's more Pakistani, to be fair. But due to the genetics, Pakistanis are pretty much Indians. They're just Muslim Indians.
Less turmeric.
Less
turmeric.
I think I know what you're saying, but I'm going to pretend that you were talking about tumors. It's not a tumor. Oh, sorry. Man, Skydo, do you realize pretty soon no one's going to know what I'm referencing when I yell out that? Our kids aren't going to know who Arnold Schwarzenegger even was. Probably for the best, but we'll probably find out he was on one of the lists or something. But, who will take their Austrian bumpkin bodybuilder role in their life, man? Yeah, most people don't know that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a hick. His accent was so hick, like German hick, that they had to dub over his lines because it would be the equivalent of, say, a German movie having a robot with an American accent and it the thickest draw Southern accent you'd ever heard in your life. So it's I'll be back now, you hear? We go. Sorry, and they thought it didn't quite match the robot. Your kids are 24 and 22. I forget how old you are. So fine, your grandkids.
He's like an uncle.
Your grandkids. It's true. Your grandkids. How many times do I have to say that in a row? Your I bet we could still find something that those punks at 24 and 22 don't know about. Something to properly 90s. Yeah. Holy crap. I just realized. 22, 24? Neither of your kids have seen the 90s. Wife, we're old.
I know.
Kept thinking we wouldn't make it this far, to be honest. Nah.
You'll be 34.
Uh-huh.
Whoa, you're 10 years older.
There has to be something that we thought was iconic that they don't know about. But they're not here to pick their brains. I really do probably need to get it. I was about to read out of Ecclesiastes of all things, and I got distracted by the Song of Solomon, which, as you do. You don't laugh about this stuff. I mean, God knew what he was doing when he put it in the book. He laughs too, I'm sure.
Give a man a whole bunch of wisdom. Next thing you know, he's talking about dough.
Hey, you know what? Solomon, the wisest man in the world, was the one that went just throw all the hose at me. And, I'm sure nothing would go wrong. That's not how I wanted to approach this subject. I was going to ease our way into Solomon's fall from grace. Oh,
Grace was not her name, I bet.
It might have been in her language. You never know.
Middle name?
Grace the pagan witch.
Gracefully burned.
Yes. I have this image of a model walking down on fire, like burning, but still doing the model walk.
This girl is on fire.
Took it too literally.
Yeah.
my wife made this. It was funny. Stick another one. Anyway, so as you,
Glasses keep falling down.
my wife broke her glasses. We have replacements coming. Thanks to all you people who helped us out. By the way, that would have been really awkward.
They're
Like
taped.
even 2 weeks ago, it would have been really awkward. Week ago, even. God. All right. So, Ecclesiastes.
Where is it?
I keep saying it right after Proverbs. Yeah, right after Proverbs, but before the bouncing boob dose in Song of Solomon's. I saw that Twitch wife. Don't think I didn't see it. That annoying Twitch.
What chapter?
Just like the first couple of chapters in general. It's really interesting book.
Vanity of Toil? No, wait.
Yeah, that's sure. Vanity of all of it. The time for everything. Evil under the sun. Fear God. The vanity of toil. The vanity of wisdom. It's interesting that the wisest man in the world.
Vanity of wealth and honor.
Or at least the wisest man in the Bible. Who knows? For all we know, someone was wiser than Solomon afterwards, but we don't know about him because he didn't write a book and stuff. Could have happened. Whatever. Basically, if you read through Ecclesiastes, you have all these interesting. You all right over there? Falling on her face. Observations from a guy who's had a lot of time to think. And he's going crazy. But in particular, the spot I want to concentrate on, I think it's in chapter 2. Vanity of self-indulgence, the vanity of living wisely, the vanity of toil. A certain amount of deltas really need the vanity of toil part drilled into their minds. I love the guys, but sometimes you just...
That's like, no.
Ow.
You got steel toe shoes on, you're fine.
You didn't hit me on the steel toe part. There's not steel on the heel, woman. It's toe. Steel toe. What? That's how you know that your preacher in this case was from a blue collar background. He's just hanging out in
Aaron.
Blue collar background, babe. He's just hanging out in steel toed boots. It happens.
Oh, so the kids can't break their nails.
Yeah, okay, I lied.
Bottle.
This was Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Chapter 4. Evil under the sun. Again, I saw all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors there was power, and there was no one to comfort them. And I thought the dead who are already dead more fortunate than the living who are still alive. But better than both is he who has not yet been and has not seen the evil deeds that are done under the sun. Then I saw that all toil and all skill in work comes from a man's envy of his neighbor, This also is vanity and spirit striving after wind. The fool folds his hands and eats his own flesh. Better is a handful of quietness than 2 hands full of toil and striving after wind. Again, I saw vanity under the sun. One person who has no other, either son or brother, yet there is no end to all his toil, and his eyes are never satisfied with riches, so that he never asks, "For whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure?" This also is vanity, and an unhappy business. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone, when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. 3-fold cord is not quickly broken. Better was a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who no longer knew how to take advice. For he went from prison to the throne, though in his own kingdom he had been born poor. I saw all the living who move about under the sun, along with that youth who was to stand in the king's place. There was no end of all the people, all of whom he led. Yet those who came later will not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and striving after wind. So, I felt like reading the whole thing, even though we'll probably only talk about a few parts of it. There's actually very interesting parts. You have an entire section that's kind of reminds me of old Ozymandias. That's probably something that... Now, I was kind of shocked when I found out that people weren't learning about that poem. It was like referenced in everything when I was a kid. Every 2-bit screenwriter was like, "Ooh, I'll put Ozymandias in my show, and that will show how fancy and cultured I am." Wife, do you know what I'm talking about? Not at all?
I was not educated.
You were not educated? Well, don't worry. I'm not a pretentious pinky up type of writer. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Hey, I read a 10-sentence poem. I'm clearly a much more educated person than you." No. Basically, one of my favorite poets ever got drunk at a bar once. I'm not even joking. And the bar, because bars were actually very interesting places back in the day, had a poem, a bar with a poem competition. Not even joking. This is the story. And he wrote the poem in like 10 minutes on a napkin and won. And essentially, you should look it up sometime. It's a poem. It's basically a story about in the desert. There's a ruined statue of a king, and it's like broken, and there's this symbology around it with the desert reclaiming it. And on the...
I don't know how to spell.
He made up the word in the bar. I think you can figure it out. Just sound it out, my love. Ozymandias. Ozymandias.
It says Ozymandias.
DS. What? Ozymandias? Yes. And the inscription basically says, look at me, my works, ye mighty, and despair." And that's all the poem needs to be, because it points out that this mighty king who made all the other kings despair is nothing. And all that he's had has fallen away and has fallen to dust. There's a lot of that kind of thinking in Ecclesiastes, which is not all, Solomon, top of his game in a lot of way, living Ozymandias, right? Has like thousands of wives, because as he puts in chapter 1, I think, how he basically lets loose and decides to pursue every pleasure he can think of, including like every woman he can find. And which does turn into his downfall, both because he's experimenting and he's going after all these women, because some of the women bring their gods with them because they're pagan, and next thing you know, he's doing pagan stuff. If we, I want to be careful bringing too much of cultic stuff into this, but the occult is obsessed with Solomon because they have all these extra stories about him. Might be true, might be false, but
No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Engaged in... Oh, okay, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So don't mix up the story. I'm going off of my high school knowledge right now. Right, engaging a friend. Oh, okay. So it was he and his friend. It wasn't like
poetry competition. I like the bar idea though.
that
Can
was kind
bars
of
do
a-
that?
it would be horrible and hilarious.
Mel
so-
Gibson would be
Okay.
great.
I need to come back and walk back my statement. I think they were in a bar, but he and his friend had a competition, and Ozymandias was the result of poetry competition. I mean, if I ever own a bar, I want to just screw with the tenants and have a poetry competition, and whoever impresses me like gets fruit or like a free round of beer or something. Can we do that just like one night?
So
Just watch the drunken morons desperately attempt. How drunk can a poet get and still be good at his job? The question. Anyway,
where's the canary?
a lot of Ecclesiastes is Solomon pointing out that despite all his wisdom and his wealth and all his pleasures and all the toil and everything he's done, he's still going to die. In his own words, the wise man dies just like the fool. So what was the point of his wisdom? Yeah. It's funny. You have this when people become more materialistic, it becomes all about death to them. In a way, they're either trying to avoid it with all their might, or facing the fact that no matter what, it's coming for them, and their skeletons or their flesh are going to be eaten up just like the fool, and no one's going to know the difference between a billionaire and a bum's body in the end. Okay, so we have some ways to guess. Yes, skeletons are male and female, I'm afraid. There's bigger holes in the female bits. Funny enough. I wonder why. It's like things are supposed to go there. And things are supposed to come out.
One expands more than the other.
You know. Anyway. Also, women have more, their skeleton does more of an S thing. It's kind of funny. It's a little swoop.
Okay.
Swoop. That's fun. This has been anatomy. I should probably get more and more towards the title. Now, the funny thing about this whole thing that I'm bringing up with Solomon and the connection to the cultic, their story about him, and, again, it's hard to know these people, these Epstein-type people who've been around for so long, worship one demon and fake god or dark god after another, and, their faces come and go. New deities seem to pop up sometimes, whatever. They're liars, and they've always been liars, so how much can we believe in them? Who knows? They're obsessed with Solomon because the concept is when he was pursuing all knowledge and all blah, 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 he delved into a bunch of witchcraft and a bunch of magic and blah. And there could be something to this because, again, God got pretty mad at him and basically took away David's birthright because of all the sins. So it must have been pretty bad. Whether it was what they're talking about, who knows? There definitely seemed to be some pagan worship in there, which could have led to it. Which also means I come to that line where he says he sees the oppressed and no one's there to comfort him. There's a part of me that looks at that and goes, Solomon, my guy, you're a king. If you see the oppressed, why don't you go help them? With all your wealth and wisdom there, hotshot. There's a part of me that says that. There's a part of me that thinks he recognized, even as a king, very wealthy, very wise king, there was only so much even he could do. And that reminded me of the modern world we live in. Honestly, preachers and pastors, as far as I can tell, have been utterly ignoring the Epstein stuff. Well, I'm not going to do that. And it's difficult. Cat's trying to. And this highlights to me that right now we're in Solomon's position. Unlike him, though, we have even less power. Again, I wonder, hey, Solomon, why don't you stop trying to get your 12,000th bride that you're going to stoop and worship her gods with, and maybe just help the person you're seeing crying over being oppressed? Just, throwing it out there.
I think you're running the false gods.
Just a little thought. But we are in a position where we know great evil is happening. We know it. It's not a quote-unquote conspiracy anymore. Never was. There's a fair chance that Epstein's not even dead. Hitler wasn't killed in Germany. Funny enough, like that one's not a conspiracy either. What previous CIA files that have been released to show that not only did Hitler survive World War II, the CIA knew where he was, knew who he was, sent a guy to check up on him and confirm that he was Hitler, and then did nothing about it. If Hitler can get away, I think a random human trafficker can be shipped away too. And where does that leave men like us, who demand justice, who aren't weak? Well, we're weak compared to our ancestors. We agree to that. Do we just look at the oppressed and the utter evil and feel like Solomon, useless, and call it all toil and nonsense? Well, Jesus actually has something to say about it too. And it's something you've heard quoted and requoted and smacked around, and its meaning twisted to the opposite of what it was meant to do. And that's when he said, revenge is of the Lord. In fact, let's bring up those verses right now, because I remember them being very interesting. Oh, maybe we'll do a sermon on that, actually. Yeah. So, when Jesus says revenge is of the Lord, he's not telling you not to pursue justice. He's telling those people who can't get justice and revenge, who can't do it not in a million years, that God is on their side, that God is going to get that justice. Okay, see the difference there? They take, and we're talking people as confirmed, evangelicism, a lot of this stuff has shown to be psyops, by the way. And again, we've dealt with that in my own upbringing and stuff. They have twisted his words from meaning a comfort to those who are oppressed and feel that they will never get justice, saying that God will get you justice one day, right? To twisting it to say you should never have justice, you should never pursue justice, because there might be some revenge involved. And of course, they ignore that in the original Aramaic, so in the most of the Old Testament, revenge and justice was the same word. It was synonymous. And when you really get down to it, what is revenge other than excessive justice? There's false petty revenge, right? That's the gamma nonsense of, oh, she called me fat, I'm going to burn her children, right? That's not justice. We all know that. That's false, excessive crap. We get that. We can't let God do all the work. We're getting there. We're getting there, Anthony. Getting there, Skydog. And they've twisted the words. And I also know what you're quoting. You're a funny man. They've twisted the words that Jesus said to mean you never pursue justice. Later on, Paul refers to the government as God's avengers. The idea being that he empowers the government to avenge evil. That's their job. And when they don't do that, just like when, say, government officials and Pharisee types suppress Christianity and attack Christianity, they lose their right to leadership, their spiritual right. The divine right of kings, well, they lose that when they go against God. Nebuchadnezzar was an instrument of God until he angered God and the Watchers enough that by the decree of the Watchers, by the way, they said by their own authority, they make him live like an animal, and he turns into like a bull, like grazing in grass for like 7 years or something crazy. Right? But I want to highlight here that we don't have to be like Solomon. We don't have to be materialistic like the modern Christians, right? Part of the reason why the modern Christians are so messed up, right? That they're so scared about revenge, and they're so scared about, and they're so scared about justice happening in any way, right? They're scared, first of all, because they're cowards and they can't defend themselves, and they, in a world where justice is actually pursued, they would have no part in it, and they know it, right? When you're a weak man, you can't make your enemy stop fighting, but you can make your own side stop fighting. And if you could just make everybody stop fighting, no one will find out how weak you are, or how incapable you are, or at least it's not valuable anymore, right? That's the idea. It's the manipulative streak in the back. And they clothe it through philosophy and all this side stuff. And yes, there are some true peace. Like, there's two sides to every coin. David was the man after God's own heart. The guy who cut off 100 penises to get his wife. Yes, that was him. The guy who cut off a man's head when he was like 12 years old, right? And people forget how young he was when he killed Goliath. And, you know, I always laughed. I always laughed that, right, you know, all those like Sunday school things for kids and all the like the
was
drawings.
it my cousin said that her son couldn't handle it?
No. But anyway, they always cut off right after the doink in the head, and suddenly the story's over. And they ignore the part where he cuts off his head and like lifts it up like a trophy, like, yeah, Conan the Barbarian style. And then the Israelites proceed to slaughter the Philistines for like days afterwards, chasing them down. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. That part's, you know, that's not important, don't you know? And this is what we're talking about, right? We live in the age of churchianity, a heresy that wants to concentrate on one half of the Bible. You know what the other half of this part is, right? David, the man after God's own heart, was not allowed to build the temple because, in God's own words, he'd shed much blood. Much blood that God told him to shed, by the way. He was fulfilling his purpose as the warrior king establishing Israel. And God wanted him to do it. And if he hadn't done it like Saul, he would have been rejected. You know why Saul was like the final thing that led to Saul's rejection and his dynasty being destroyed? Was him having mercy on his enemies. That this isn't something that's brought up in most Christian circles, and I have never actually heard a pastor preach on this. Ooh, maybe I'll have to preach on it next Sunday. That sounds good, actually. I will. This is his whole story. Saul's enemy is given over to his hands. Oh, I might be mixing this up with Ahab, actually.
Is this why?
Yeah, this is why it's going to be a full sermon. No, not though. I'm going to open my mouth right now. That's what streams are for, dang it. I just had a false history in my head about like a drunk competition in a bar. I mean, it was a drunk competition, but it was between two poets. Gosh dang,
I mean, you can drink and not be drunk.
Not all who wander are lost, wife says. But they're all wandering.
Makes you wonder.
Not all who sing can sing.
I know I can't sing.
Not everyone who cooks should cook.
She
Not
all
should.
who
She's good at
are German. I mean, what?
Kind of escalated in a strange direction I wasn't expecting. I mean, they do. It's just too
Not
rarely.
with the water you want.
I mean, they behave fine for their climate. It's when you put them in a tropical climate that they have a trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Tell me about it.
We grew up in tropical countries, and we had lots of German tourists, and they never understood that they stank. And of course, they always wanted to backpack everywhere, so it just made them stink worse. Old
My dad
memories.
picked up a hitchhiker once.
Well, oh, I can.
Stinky one.
Why do you have to do this?
I'm
You're
sorry.
really distracting me. Now I'm thinking about the guy who like disturbed me and my friends. He was so fat. He was German. He was drunk. He was in a pool.
Oh, the stereotypical.
And he was wearing such a small swimsuit
Was it
that his
Speedo?
belly covered it, and he looked naked. And he stands out of the pool going, "Ah!" To the bartender, and we're all like 5 boys going, "Oh my god!" We all run away in pain. That was also the place that spiked my friend's drink without him realizing.
Was
Poor
it
kid.
your turn? No.
And then you have these 5 little boys ordering the drink that says "sex on the beach" because we thought it was hilarious. Teenagers. Of course, what's the one without alcohol? Oh, could I have a virgin sex on the beach? Gosh, it's like Epstein named the drinks in that place, now that I think about it. It is Nicaragua. Isn't it? No, Nicaragua's too poor. They can't get as fancy there. They need an island in Bahamas. Too many places to hide them in the jungle, man. No one's going to notice another body down there.
Elephants are good stompers.
That's true. You have good stuff.
You know that elephant shirt? I was thinking great world's best stompers. I was going to put down the shirt. But you're like, no, it doesn't sound good. It's weird.
It is weird. I mean,
World's best
okay,
stompers. True
maybe if
elephants
you
right
have like
there.
a picture of Epstein and like the elephant head coming down, then people will understand what
Happy
you're talking about.
Valentine's Day. Smack.
Revenges of the Lord and an elephant, I guess. Yeah. Can't you distracted me? We're gonna get back. Okay. Now
Only 37 minutes.
we're gonna clean up our message a little bit. I'm gonna be messing with you guys now. Now grab your Bibles, gentlemen, and we're gonna jump to Numbers chapter.
This is not an address. Okay.
Numbers chapter 31. It's pretty self-explanatory when you get there. Vengeance on Midian. Midian.
Mighty.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Avenge the people of Israel on the Midianites. Afterwards you shall be gathered to your people." So Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Arm men from among you for the war, that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian." And it only gets worse from there. They get very violent, and God very much encourages it. I bring this up to point out that when modern Christians say "revenges of the Lord," they forget things like Numbers 31, where God says, "Yes, good, now go do it." Do you think any of our modern churchian Christian brethren could handle God looking at them after they say, "Oh, revenges of the Lord," and him telling them, "Very good, I choose you, go and enact my revenge"? I don't think very many of them can handle it. And this is because they're materialists. To them, it is just the material. Right? All the spiritual who we have a talk to is just who we have a talk to them. It's like voodoo. It's just something to make them feel special and less atheists. But they are atheists in standard. You know why? Because to them, the worst thing you could ever do is take another life. Oh, why? Because you end the party. You end the party. That's the worst thing you can do in their eyes, is end somebody's party. That's how you know that the modern Christian is a materialist, is an atheist at heart. They think it all ends. Some part of their mind doesn't actually think it's going to happen. Heaven is just a story to them to make them feel better. And you can tell by what it is. What is it? It's just retirement in the clouds, where they get to go on endless cruises in their massive mansions. That's all it is to them. It's right, the clouds and the harps, and we always sing, we have a party.
And the stairs.
And, it's remarkably similar to Islam's version of heaven, which is full of literal, basically, prostitutes that were made to be prostitutes in heaven, that their genitals never tire, which is possibly a reference to the fact that Muhammad had a gay orgy in the desert with the Al-Zuts in front of his version of Peter. That's awkward. But that's not what we're talking about right now. That I brought up to point out to you what materialists think of heaven. It's just earth, but without problems. We're married, okay? Get over it.
No, I don't want the whatever the weird religion.
Oh,
yeah.
Come on!
Sorry.
I'm just gonna do gang signs to annoy you now.
Oh,
there we go. Okay, does that help? Perhaps it's like it's Epstein. Is that better? Why do they get to have all the hand signs, man? Oh, what was I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm cool. I think the Catholics know what they're doing with that. That's nice. It's a little ridiculous sometimes, but it's all right. It's better than trying to do this. Like, what do you do? Doesn't look right. Oh, where you think that was bad somewhere? Someone doesn't like this.
A thumbs up is a flick off in Greece. If you don't.
One of these is bad somewhere. You're on your kitty cat. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna close it.
And that means, because they're functional atheists with a spiritual overtone, and again, you just look at the media that they consume, the sci-fi, right? What is science fiction but atheists with like a Buddhist edge to them to make them feel like they're fighting for something? When in the end, if they were actually smart, like they think they are, they would be like Solomon and go, what was the point? And the answer is there's no point. No point without God. I know it's a sword. Point. I get it. Get to the point. Blah, blah, blah. Do it in the classic Austrian accent. Let's make it to the point. Anyway. Meow! You made me meow on camera. Gosh, dang it. I feel like I lost some of my credibility there. Ah!
Sorry. It's all the game signs.
Yeah. He's very angry at me now, but he's calming down. Yes, you may. No, not on the keyboard. What are you doing?
Rose.
Cat distraction is now over. Catastrophe. And that's how you know, right? The connection to it and part of the propaganda and everything was geared to make people view religion and spirituality as just something that gives you a nice emotion and feels whenever the other black hole, soul depriving reality of the grave comes to mind. After all, without God, the brave man and the coward both die and get eaten by maggots, so who cares? Whatever good or whatever thing you build will fall away the time you fall apart and die. I always found it hilarious messing with environmentalist types, because it's like, hey, you're killing all the birds. Your system of evolution is supposed to work off of a species going extinct. They're supposed to die. That's the point. You don't get more evolution unless they die. In fact, according to evolution, none of these species actually matter. So why are we getting a big tussle if the fourth turtle from New Mexico dies? It looks like all the other turtles, except for spot in its left flipper.
See,
See, this is a bit of a tangent, but this is again how you know that was. There he goes. He's going, boss. You didn't feed me yet. Go sniff his bowl. Is that they made animals more important than man, and man to be the parasite, right? Which.
Will you not do that, Thumper?
Okay. Her. Oh, apparently I scared a couple FBI agents away. And you can see the inversion there, right? Man is bad. Man is, well, I mean, man is fallen nature, but man, God's, tool on earth that he sent down. He's evil beyond belief, kind of thing, while the animals are treated as, special boy, beautiful things. And man is the problem. Man, you see, man's no better than the dog. You can't eat a crab. The crab used to be something too. And again, evolution is supposed to function, and it's been mathematically disproven, so I don't want to hear it anyway. But the way it was supposed to function was species that were less capable die off. That's the point. That's the purpose. What are you trying to hang on to them for? There's nothing more special about them than the next evolutionary nonsense gland, other than your personal feelings of why they're cool. That's it.
They're basically trying to make evolution feel like reincarnation.
Yes, they are. And that's the point. It's the sprinkling. It's the sprinkling of religion on top, so that they never do the Solomon thing of, oh, this is all pointless without God. That's the whole point. So, get it back onto our subject here. We establish, and there's other verses to back up, right? I brought up King Ahab. I brought up Saul. Saul also did it. There was a time when he was supposed to kill everyone and the animals, and they brought plunder back, and God got very angry with him, and that's when his line was blotted out. Then Ahab was supposed to kill another king, but when he had him in his hands, he showed him mercy and called him his brother. God got so mad because they'd set up 3 invasions of killing this guy's armies that God was like, no, that guy goes down. And there's this whole part where a prophet pretends to be a soldier and says that, hey, this guy, I was supposed to watch a prisoner. The prisoner escaped. And what should be done? And the King Ahab's like, well, you should be punished. You should for that loss of that prisoner. And the prophet reveals himself and goes, yeah, what did God say to you, Mr. Give up the other king that I delivered to your hands? And next thing you know, Ahab's horribly punished for that and other things. Ahab did a lot of bad, but it's very fascinating. King Ahab, the worst king of Israel. Don't fall.
I'm surfing. Cheers.
You are surfing,
There's
yes.
so many cheers.
Well, it's like there's 6 people with 6 butts.
I can count, yes.
She can count. I knew I married a smart woman. She can count to 6, guys. Gotta keep her. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. I love it. Anyway, so.
Where are we going to? You better keep me.
Let us then put things in the appropriate spot. Paul says that God raises up government officials, the right type, to be avengers upon the evildoer. And what do you do when the evildoers are in charge of the government? Well, I assume, just like the judges and kings of the past in Israel, God's going to raise up a new generation of avengers who are going to create a new government that is going to avenge and do his will and bring justice. It's a pretty logical format, isn't it? It's not very hard. It was done over and over and over again in the Old Testament. And we establish, like, if you think about it, right? When Paul is talking about like following laws and all of blah, 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 he's not talking about not doing justice. He's not even talking about never do a rebellion ever, because God calls several gentlemen to do rebellions in the Bible. Several, in fact, including Jeroboam, who was Solomon's punishment because of Solomon's witchcraft and everything else he did. He raises up Jeroboam. And Jeroboam, unfortunately, sins as well and does the sin of tolerance and puts up some idols and stuff. But he was a God-started rebellion in Solomon's kingdom. God anointed him and everything. One could almost argue that King David wasn't a rebellion, though King David desperately didn't want to rebel, which is the funny part. God, like...
What?
I think I need to be careful tonight. I think I insulted some part of my Kozak I wasn't expecting, because while I was talking, she just started pulling out knives and putting them on my desk, just like one knife at a time. Like,
That's my throwing knife.
which... So I don't know if you guys have read my book. It's not done yet, obviously, but on Archaven. Remember the assassin chick in the pirate book with all the knives? I'm not saying that I had inspiration or anything, but I did. Sleep with one eye open. Wait, you lost your throwing knife? I have to get you another one for Valentine's Day?
No, it was like that yay big.
That yay.
I think it was a kid.
Oh, hi, Rosie. No, the kids don't take it. Hi, yeah? Quick, before she comes back, steal her chair. Come on, steal her chair. She might have,
There's more knives in there.
There's knives all over this house. Don't worry, one day there'll be just as many guns.
Oh yeah, it's right. There's like 2 knives in there.
I was looking at my dog, by the way. Sorry. Anyway, so we also need to be careful, right? I mean, at this time, I was having a really rough night thinking about all the evil. When I was younger, I used to kind of go to bed in rage and tears, to the point that, you know, if you've been with this channel, you know, I had a time frame where I was martyred idol. I'm trying to do the suicidal, but with martyrdom. I was obsessed with death and martyrdom to the point that I didn't want to grow old, and I wanted to just burn outright, killing as many human traffickers and people I could get my hands on. And God called me to more than that. And sometimes I still have these black moments where you just feel like turning on the Rip and Tear song from Doom and not thinking about anything else for a long time. But revenge is of the Lord and me. Whether my generation gets to see true justice or not, God will have his revenge. And we shouldn't forget we shouldn't forget. I'm trying to get some. We shouldn't forget that just because the modern churchians have gone down the rabbit hole of nonsense materialist land, where the worst thing you could possibly do to anyone is kill someone, right? Christians of the past recognize that the sins of the soul and the corruption of the soul was far worse than killing someone, because guess what? Everybody dies. You know, when you recognize death and you can face it, it's apparent that it's not the worst thing that can happen to you. In fact, sometimes it's a lot harder to live instead, which is something God often calls us to do. I mean, usually calls us to do. It's not saying that God can't use martyrdom or doesn't use martyrdom, but a lot of times it's a lot harder to live for God than it is to die. Death can be fast. Sometimes it's slow, don't get me wrong, but you get the point. It ends, and then you're into the next stage of things. For the materialist, that death is the death of everything to them. Their whole world goes away in their minds. And that's why they need that little sprinkling on top of the shit sandwich, if you will, to that just religious enough to make it palatable enough that they don't look at that void, that all-consuming void that would take the light from their eyes, in the words of Solomon, and take all of their toil and everything they've ever done, loved, all their pleasures, to show them how vain and useless it was. All vanity. Right? So, I say all this because I want you guys who are already there and understand what I'm talking about not to lose heart, but not to let the blackness consume you either. That all-consuming thing. Contrary to popular belief, all those verses about forgiveness are, if you read them, are for your brothers. For your brothers in Christ. As evident by the fact that Jesus is not very forgiving of the Pharisees while he's on earth, and is very harsh with them, lest I checked. And even the people he's nice to, he almost always tells them, repent, change your ways, don't go back to them. And we do have our homework. Shoot, I should probably talk about it a little bit here. There's a little bit of that in there. Very interesting. Probably mostly just talk about this in training there. If you remember, your homework was reading chapter 7 out of Luke. So, don't let that thirst for justice consume you either, or let you do a stupid decision that goes nowhere. God has a desire to use you in the now. And things are coming. That rising up, that replacement government will one day appear. The true avengers that are willing to do his will. And maybe we live to see it, maybe we don't. But God will have his justice one way or another. So, on that note, he wants you to be a part of that remnant. And we shouldn't forget, even in the throes of righteous vengeance, that God can still save even the ones who are way far gone. And that can be hard to accept, but there's where the forgiveness is. Once they become your brother in Christ, that's when forgiveness comes. You know, loving your enemies is a brotherly love, an Agrippa type of love. It is the wanting the best for them, but willing to do the tough love. And just like if a brother hurts you and does something absolutely heinous and will not repent of it, he still gets punished, as is right. It is unjust for a man to get away with his crimes because he's your brother. Forgiveness, repentance allowed, but it would be wrong for me as a judge, for example, to let my brother off, especially if he's unrepentant, for rape or murder, wouldn't it? Just because he's my brother doesn't mean he gets away with crime. Likewise, God will throw his enemies into the lake of fire. He loves all the people he's killed, and he's killed a lot of people. I don't know if you've noticed. A lot of people in the New Testament, too. Lest you forget the whole thing about Jerusalem and the blood, and all the Jews who were going to die because of their lack of repentance while Jesus was there. What was it? Right when Jesus Christ is looking over Jerusalem, he cries and says, if Sodom and Gomorrah had had the kind of miracles that you would receive, they would have repented. God, it wasn't very pretty. And I don't know if I've brought this up. It's interesting. Jesus Christ kept on saying how he was the Lord of the Sabbath, and God destroyed them, the Pharisees, for sticking too rigidly to the law that they basically created. Because in times of war, they could only defend themselves on the Sabbath. They weren't allowed to attack. The Romans, being smart mother truckers, realized that the Jews wouldn't attack them on Sundays. So they waited for or was it Sunday or Saturday? Or whatever the Sabbath day is. I'm so tired. It's Sunday. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I think I'm getting Catholics and getting mixed in there again. I'm too tired and I don't feel like looking it up. So they waited till a Sabbath and then they built up a ramp to the wall so that they could get their siege weapons up to it and stuff. If the Jews, ironically, had repented and followed Christ, they would have recognized that as a moment of, as Jesus put it, which one of you, if your child falls in a well, won't pull them out because it's a Sabbath, or won't help their donkey or something like that, right? So an enemy at the gates building a ramp to take the wall is kind of like a moment like your son falling in the well on the Sabbath. Is it work to pull them out? Yes. Does God say that's an exception to the rule? Also a yes. Funny enough, as Christ said, man was not made for the Sabbath. Sabbath was made for the man. So it's a supreme irony to show that the Jews were killed off and they lost their siege because they didn't follow Christ's words and see the Sabbath being made for them, not them for the Sabbath. What are you going to do? Yep. I find that to be a supreme irony. And also, obviously, something that God was setting into motion. So, take heart, gentlemen, because it's obvious at this point that all the evil in the Epstein files is not going to be avenged until men are finally willing to allow God to make them his avengers on earth. It's just not going to happen. Like they said, if they arrested everyone in the Epstein files, the system would collapse. And the chorus from the general man is, good. Do it. It's like they forgot. What was the thing everyone was saying when they voted for Trump? Basically, they wanted to take a hammer to the system. Apparently, somebody forgot that we wanted the system to be broken. Who would have thought that if we want the system broken, we're going to actually have to break it? It's not going to break itself, unfortunately. So, I should get into this a little bit. We dabbled in it, but I want to finish the thought. And it deserves a whole stream in and of itself, and I got a little sidetracked. You're welcome. And that's the fact that churchianity, the cowardly Christians of this modern church, right? They don't actually believe, like the Libertarians, for example, right? They've created all these philosophies and things, but in the end, it's about the porn. It's about the drugs. It's about their vices. They want their vices, and they've created a philosophy so that no one takes their vices away. Okay? They don't care who does it, whatever. They just don't want their vices taken away, which obviously means if good Christian men are becoming more theocratic, they're getting very uncomfortable because they recognize that in a theocracy, we might actually expect our men to not be addicted to porn. It might take their vices away from them. You see how that works? Would it be better for them? Would it be better for society? Would it be better at large? Yes, but they don't want that. All they want is their boobs. All they want is their drugs. That's all they want. And they've created all these philosophies. So when you argue with them, I had this revelation, if you will. Don't actually argue about their philosophy. Just point out that they're addicted to porn, that they're addicted to boobs, that they're addicted to drugs or whatever it is that they don't want people taking away. Right? Well, the modern churchian is like the libertarian on that front. The modern churchian, though, instead of being addicted to these vices, is a coward and is terrified of fighting. So their goal is to make their vice, cowardice, become a virtue. Being too weak to stop a man from raping your wife is not a virtue. It's not. And Christ never promoted that even once. He never said loving your enemies meant let them rape your wife or let them destroy you or, kill your nations and take your children away. No. That loving your enemies in that sense is wanting what's best for them. And what's best for them is them repenting and joining the kingdom of heaven. But tough love says if they don't, well, brotherly love is subservient to the love of your family, to the love of your wife, to the love of God. In love of God, family, people, enemies. Still love them, but they're not above God. They're not above Christ. They're not above your wife. They're not above your kids. They're not above your community. See how that works? The hierarchy. So, in the interest of tough love, we have to put the fear back into the evil. But the problem is, the cowards who have made their cowardice a virtue want the fighting to stop. They want their party to keep going. They want people to not see how much of a coward they actually are. So they've created a system, a philosophy, a theocracy type thing, which punishes men with strength. Except for in their sanctioned wars, funny enough. And it's not just war theory in that sense. And they do this because they can't make the enemy stop fighting. Right? They can't make the Muslim stop killing Christians. They can't do that. But they can sure make Christians stop fighting the Muslims for doing that, can't they? Ooh. And so the coward stops war by sacrificing everything he loves one at a time to the gator. One at a time, he feeds each child, each friend, each family member to the gator in the hopes that it eats him last. I hate using that analogy because Churchill was a disgusting plant, but you know what? It's not what this was about. Churchill, that disgusting fat lard. Anyway, we won't get into Churchill here. I despise the man. And I'm not even Irish. Yeah. There might be a little bit of Irish in me. Maybe that's the part of me that hates Churchill so much. That's a funny thought. I'm
Your
Dutch.
sister did say something a little Irish, but I don't know.
A little bit of Irish. I am bold enough, but I'm more
you
Dutch.
You don't have to be Irish to be bold.
Dutch get bold too, I hear.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, I need to fix this one.
So, I hope this establishes what we're talking about here. Dutch with a side of English. Yes.
Well, you did come from the
one of my
boat people.
One of my ancestors came over with the Mayflower. I'm assuming one of the seamen, and went, "Hey, these British people, we're the hat. We'll do that." Or was it like one of those, and then they mixed with one of the people in New York? Hey, who do you think you are?
Our ancestors.
I'm glad you can count to 6.
Is that why I'm having trouble fighting my knives?
Yes. 1, little 2, little 3, little
Where am I at?
So, the coward.
I did pack that in cleaner.
Yeah. The coward will sacrifice everything he loves for just another minute apiece. But remember that shedding blood does, in fact, damage your soul in one way or another. Well, I won't say damage your soul, but it does mark you in a way. Hence why King David, the man after God's own heart, could not build his temple. God is a God of peace, and a god of war, and a god of industry, and a god of art. He is the god of everybody. He is not a pagan entity that can only encompass one concept. He is all of it at once. He is the god of the Crusaders, just as he was the god for the peaceful monks. Yeah, wow, you guys get the point. We're going to move on to our homework real quick. God is the god to the Crusaders, as much as he's the god to the farmer, as much as he is the god to the... I was going to say scientists, but we'll say scientists. The original scientists who were Christian, shall we say. He's the god of the poor. He's the god of the rich. As Ecclesiastes says, there's a time for everything. So, let's get into Luke chapter 7 now that we went for so long there. Two people have an ouch. Right. I believe chapter 7 involves a number of different miracles. Excuse me.
What gives you that idea? Can you count how many?
Yeah. Yeah, the centurion servant. So this again is actually a little bit of what we're talking about here. Because in the centurion servant, Jesus is impressed with a goyim, the derogatory term for someone who's not a Jew.
Oh.
Centurion was a Roman. It's a Roman officer in charge of 100 men. Gentile, do you prefer? Because Jesus establishes earlier on that he's here for the Jews first. He sends out the disciples to the Jews first. He, when the woman who was bleeding, right, asked for healing and all that, asked for healing for her son or something.
The widow's son?
Yeah.
It's right there.
No. The woman who comes asking, and he tells her that it's not right to take bread from the child and give it to the dogs. He said, but even the dogs can eat crumbs, right? The point Jesus is establishing here that we should pay attention to is that you go to your own people first, right? And then you go out, both because of hypocrisy reasons and because if your own people aren't established, where do you get off trying to help anybody else? How can you help anybody else unless your home front is shored up and foundationed? So we have this established again, right? Mm-hmm. Take care of it's God, family, people, then your enemies and your foreigners. Probably foreigners and then enemies in that order. And so we have this again here where the centurion, a foreigner, has greater faith than anybody else and even tells God, I might have been reading. Do not trouble yourself or not. Yeah. And recognize that Jesus was like an officer of the spiritual armies and went, I tell my soldiers to go do stuff. You don't need to come here. Just tell one of your soldiers to go help. And Jesus says he hasn't seen anyone with faith like this. And it's like a big slap. Like this is one of the reasons why the Pharisees hated him, was the amount of times he went to Samaria and he talked to people and tax collectors, people that aren't supposed to be on the in crowd, and said that their faith were better than the Pharisees. That was ruffling a lot of feathers. Which, funny enough, is a situation we find ourselves in too. How many of these pastors and preachers are we going to find are on lists like the Epstein list? I suspect there's going to be a lot of them, given a lot of the pedophile stuff that's come out around the Baptist Convention and other ones. I suspect it's a lot more than we even care to think about. Yeah. But we move on. Next story is Jesus raises the widow's son. A town called Nang. Ooh, I remember this. And he tells the people to stop crying, and he just says, "Wake up, kid." And the kid wakes up, and they're all like, "Oh my God." Classic one. And then we have this little interesting moment with John the Baptist, where John's like, "Who are you really? Like, you
Yeah,
him?
really, who are you?
You him? You the one, baby?" And he sends a message where he quotes scripture and quotes prophecy specifically. This is important because Jesus fulfills a ton of prophecies in Isaiah, all over the place. And the best part is, it's when there was a day before these little things called the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, where people were trying to claim that Isaiah was written much sooner to Jesus's time, or like it was updated and changed. Those were the claims because they were too accurate. And then it was proven through the Dead Sea Scrolls that, in fact, no, these books are as old as they say they are. And gosh dang it, I hated when I lose my spot. Going back to Ecclesiastes for a bit. And also, side note, the book of Esther was not in the Dead Sea Scrolls, despite the rest of the Old Testament being there.
Written differently, too.
And the book of Enoch was in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
And they took that out.
Also, did you guys realize that the Ethiopian church was the oldest church? Just saying, not to be that guy, but the Ethiopian eunuch who took Christianity to Ethiopia, right? He was a Christian and started the Ethiopian church before Paul, the missionary to the Gentiles, even became a Christian. That means the Ethiopian church is the oldest church. Older than the Catholic Church, older than the Coptic Church, certainly older than all the Protestant churches. This is just something I throw out there because whenever I run into Catholics and Coptics who are like, well, it's more likely that the oldest church that has the most has had, is going to have the most likely, most accurate theology and all the rest. I point out that the Ethiopian church is older than both of their churches. And in fact, the area around the Nile was Christianity's hotspot. It said back in the day, before the scourge of Islam.
I'm sorry, I know you're an overhead.
Right, Islam. That you could hear hymns all the way down the Nile from all the different monastery and churches. It's funny to think that Egypt, Alexandria, North Africa, and the Levant, Jerusalem, those used to be the center power of Christianity. Constantinople, jeez, man. Constantinople, Rome, those were the backwaters. Constantinople a little less because it was started as like a Christian capital kind of thing. But Rome was the backwater. Rome was not the seat of power for Christianity. It's a funny thought. And something worth remembering. Ozymandias in the desert. What's important is God in the end, not what we build. So, he'll build a beautiful kingdom that won't end. A kingdom of summer, if you will, that never ends. If I may bring Narnia into this. Yeah. You're gonna
what?
Come back to
Oh, sorry.
Right. And so, right, all that to say, to come back to, Jesus fulfills a lot of prophecy, and this is how guys like John confirm that Christ is who he says he is, because, anyone could say, yeah, I am the one you're waiting for, but Jesus knew what verses and prophecies to bring up to prove to John who he was. And that's really important, because John is convinced. Elijah coming back was convinced. Or we say the spirit of Elijah was on John. It's probably the most accurate term. And here we have another part of this, because and I want to talk about this just a little bit before we move on, right? So the teacher says a certain money lender, right, in reference to the woman who washed the hair, and the teacher was like, the Pharisee was like, yeah. So the money lender had two tenants. One owed 500, one only owned like 25 or something, right? Who was, and he forgave over that. Who was more grateful? Well, the guy who was forgiven a much more, right? I want to establish something here. Okay, God's not saying that people who sin more and then find forgiveness are better Christians, which is something that the modern church often kind of dabbles in, by the way. How many times have you been encouraged
back their old ways after major...
but what we're establishing here, right? And Christians often get, how many times, like, I grew up in the church, so you like, they push you to do a testimony, and you're like, I accepted when I was 8 years old. I have never touched a woman. Don't worry, I haven't when I was 20s. You get the point. Right? You know, you always felt a little awkward, like, what am I supposed to do? Which is actually frustratingly a good thing. But what Jesus is establishing here is those who are saved from a lot have the appropriate amount of gratefulness to God. And all of us should strive to have the gratefulness of the mercy that God's given us. See, the best situation is someone who was not a sinner, not a great sinner, who, you know, accidentally kicked their dog sometimes and maybe used the wrong bad word at the wrong time or something, you know, like something that actually insulted them was horrible, you know, not the, you know, the conjunction in Chinese that sounds like a certain derogatory word of a ginger. Well, with an N? Wait. That just wait a minute. Ninja just sounds like a
Niger?
No, ninja sounds like a derogatory ninja.
It's a ninja who's a ginger.
Oh, ninja. Excellent. Beware the ninja.
Or a ninja who ate too much ginger.
Not the ninja. Anyway.
Smile.
Anyway, smile away. That's right. The best type of Christian
smell from a mile away. Smile
would be one who was raised in the church, accepts Christ very early on, but has utmost gratitude in his heart for the salvation and the life that he's lived. That's the ideal. Now, that's not saying that someone who has sinned greatly can't come back and won't be really grateful and can really be passionate for Christ. Just look at Paul, right? But we shouldn't allow ourselves to not recognize that it's still evil. The sin was still bad, all right? Still bad. We should be striving for people to have boring testimonies. I grew up in the church and, you know, I didn't get it, and then I got it one day, and then I made it my own, and now I'm here. And I follow God towards whatever crazy path he takes me. That should be what we strive for. And then save those crazy testimonies to convince bikers and whatnot that they can still be saved. Now, that's not what it used to be. Drug dealers. You know, shall I say, people who got involved with the Epstein files, who think they're too far deep, you can still repent. I mean, there will be heaven to pay in this case. You will have to repent. And you will have to take a stand if you truly repent from that life. You truly repent from what you've seen. And you will have to turn on your brethren, on your false brothers in Satan, if you will. But you can be redeemed. And yes, we would even be called to forgive you, but you would have to make a stand and make something different.
Puppy dreams. She just growled in her sleep.
She's chasing Epstein file people. She's herding them into the pens to be punished. No, another Jew is escaping. Oh no, Hillary Clinton is trying to get up.
Do not bring that mule in.
So, I like that. I think we've done pretty good. Next week is going to be Luke chapter 8 we're going to go over, so make sure you do your homework. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to do the like, subscribe, share, bring more people into our little Monday Sunday school nonsense. We will be striving for 8:30, 9 o'clock. Won't always happen, but I'm shooting for that time frame, okay? For the Monday live streams. It all depends on when we can get kids to bed. And I'm scared because I don't see the child.
She's under the...
Oh, thank God.
Oldest one was in there too earlier, and I kicked him out.
Mm-hmm. Sneaky. Well, it's not like...
Well,
I mean, we've all snuck out of bed to watch TV. We've all done it. Come on. Anyway. Also, keep checking out. I move steadily forward in the game dev department. We are still making the game, hopefully to replace Elder Scrolls with a proper Christian, Christianized story, if you will. And that sounds wrong. Basically, I want...
Who's the chair? I promise.
Elder Scrolls, so Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, have always just been striving to make Lord of the Rings pagan. It's basically what they want. So all I want to do is make Lord of the Rings type world, but actually have it be Christian. So it's not a cheap knockoff and you actually get to explore. If I could, I would get the Middle-earth, get the Lord of the Rings property and just make a cool Skyrim / Morrowind, whatever type RPG in Middle-earth, which would be the coolest thing. But since I can't do that, I'm just going to take one of my worlds and do it. So it'll be fun. Way early on in the process. But we steadily move on. Check those out every Saturday. And, of course, check out the sermons on Monday. And, yeah. We have said, like, subscribe, share. There's a dog twirling who needs to be fed.
You need to be fed.
And it was a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you were enriched. And remember, revenge is of the Lord, but be ready when he calls you to enact it. Okay. One last Skydog more. Oh, what are you doing? Look over there. Come here. Hooch. Everyone say bye to Rosie. Oh my God, she looks so scared. It's okay. I'm gonna press the button. Grizzlies out. We'll see you next time. Bye.